The art of the under solo riff is a fine balancing act. Its job is to be the supporting background canvas for the guitar solo to paint upon. It can't outshine the solo, but you also do not want it to be boring. Good bands can balance this well, but great bands take it a step further and create something very memorable to go with the solo, to enhance the solo. This video is about my favorite under solo riffs of all time in metal. Well, hello my friends, we meet again. It has been a while. Where should we begin? If I forgot to include your favorite under solo riff, just know that it is extremely personal and I did it just to slight you, and that now we are in a duel for our honor. So, leave your favorite under solo riffs down below in the comments, and maybe I'll make a part 2 with your guys' picks. So, starting off with an absolute classic, we have Blackened by Metallica. Now, Metallica is no stranger to great under solo riffs, and there are countless examples to choose from, but to me, this one is very, very special. Not only is this the only time that this riff is played at all in the song, but it essentially set the blueprint for melodic death metal. This pedaled open string combined with a melody played on the higher string and then alternating between them is something which would become a staple of melodic death metal, as well as melodic metalcore, and here is Metallica doing this way back in 1988. It's a really cool and bouncy riff. The flattened second interval being played on the 8th fret of the A string really gives it some bite and some attitude as well. There are a few tropes in under solo riffs, and this one plays on the trope of being the main riff of the song but different, which I love. It's great. It also comes right after the slower bridge section, so it really seems to explode with the song and with the solo. And it really helps to briefly amplify the intensity, and Kirk's playing goes exceptionally well with it. Which is another hallmark of a great under solo riff, that even if it may be a great riff on its own, it works within the song to enhance the solo, as well as not overshadowing the solo itself. One of the all-time GOATs in my opinion, and it's only played for 8 short bars and then never again. Now, if I'm going to include Metallica, I might as well get the Megadeth pick out of the way as well. Although this one, I'm going in a completely different direction. This one is like the Blackened riff in the sense that it precluded a lot of what would become genre standard in some metal genres going forward. Years before it became popular, in fact. This under solo riff is from one of the most underrated Megadeth songs, When. This under solo riff is really cool. It's basically a breakdown. It's very staccato and sharp, which contrasts very nicely with that tremolo picked solo, which is being played over top of it. The drumming here is also worthy of note, as the kick drums are matching every guitar stroke, but it is still played with great restraint on the cymbals. It's sort of like a yin and yang thing here. If Al Pitrelli played this on the Crash or even the China cymbal, it would straight up sound like 2000s metalcore. Which is why I picked this riff over the endless other great Megadeth under solo riffs. It's so strange and unique in Megadeth's catalog. It really just stands out in a song, and it was really well ahead of its time. This song came out in the year 2000. And really this sort of sharp, syncopated rhythm with a melody played over top of it would become genre standards in metalcore and prog metal. And in fact, this whole The World Needs a Hero album really contains a lot of elements that we see a lot in metal going forward. Great stuff. And now while I have you typing about how I should have picked the solo riff from Lucretia, why don't you also hit that like button and consider subscribing? It really helps the channel out to appease the almighty algorithm. Thank you. I appreciate all of you who watch my stuff here. Now, moving on, we all know I'm going to include a death song, So let's get it out of the way. This is the under solo riff from 1000 Eyes.
The secrets cannot be erased.
To me, this riff here is the definition of being a really great canvas. It's a very spacious chord arpeggio here that gives a solo a ton of room to play around with. It is also very similar to the part from Crystal Mountain, which everyone knows and loves. It just fills the background of the song with such a luscious chorus guitar sound, which sounds ever so good on this album. This also gives the chorus some chords to play with as well, and some chord changes. Really, really great stuff, and the way it transitions back to the verse riff is absolutely amazing. It's such a great transition. Easily my favorite under solo riff on Symbolic, and we also cannot forget about Gene Hoglan's excellent drumming here, which keeps up the intensity and energy up, despite, the under solo riff being sort of spacious. Great stuff. And keeping with the 90s death metal vibes, we now move on to the end section of Cynic's How Could I? This is one of those sections which you listen to the entire song again just to hear, right? It's right at the end of the song, and I'll listen to the entire song just to hear this under solo riff, really. Every time I hear it, I just think of that Vakken 2008 video, Paul sitting down, playing it, smiling at the crowd. Like, that's what it feels like to me. This is just a fantastic riff. And not only, of course, is the solo over top of it excellent, but the riff itself really has to be one of the catchiest riffs of all time. I also really like the way it evolves into these held open chords underneath. It sort of lives and breathes along with the solo it is paired with. Just an all-time classic favorite under solo riff for me here. Now, moving on to the newest riff here on this list, we have When Time Becomes Loss from the band Hemotoxin. Now, this whole album was a very welcome and pleasant surprise for me. Just a really, really good, solid progressive death metal album release in 2024, whose production doesn't make my ears cry. I love it. It's very purposefully throwing back to that 90s sound. I love it. And in this song, the under solo riff here was actually the inspiration for this video. One of those riffs that you hear as you're listening and it just makes you want to stop and listen to it. I was listening to this album while I was walking my dog, and as soon as this part came on, I was like, whoa, holy cow, that's such a cool riff. And then my mind started moving on to, what are some other cool under solo riffs? So you have this song to thank for that. I really love those add 9 or sus2, whatever you want to call them, chords. I really love how they ring out and over each other, and it really is just a very gorgeous progression which the guitar plays perfectly upon and the solo builds upon as well. It sort of plays upon that Iron Maiden major 6, major 7, minor 1 chord progression, which I made an entire video about, which of course you should check out after this one. And this chord progression here is really just one of the most epic and gorgeous chord progressions that one can use in metal. It's no wonder why it gets used so often. But yeah, really, really great stuff, and I highly recommend you check out this album, one of my favorites from 2024. Another under solo trope, which I really enjoy, is playing a melody or riff from earlier in the song, but in a different key underneath the solo. Lionheart by Saxon does this very, very well. It takes the main riff of the song and shifts it down a perfect fifth, or simply put, it takes the main riff and moves it down a string on the guitar. It gives this section a very dark and sort of oppressive feel to it, especially when combined with the keys and slightly slower drumming. Not only is this a great riff on its own, but underneath of the solo, it really does a great job of being a canvas to play upon. And the solo really does a great job with it. It's very epic and foreboding and moody. Really great stuff from an extremely underrated album in Saxon's catalog. You should really check it out. Another trope that I really love is borrowing a part from something else in the song and then using it as the under solo riff. In the case of In My Dreams by Dawkin, the under guitar solo riff is essentially what the bass plays during the chorus. So this riff is cool, as by taking what the bass plays during the chorus, which is interesting in itself, and the chorus is very cool, but because during the chorus the guitar is playing these chord arpeggios, when it comes and takes the bass riff and plays it under the solo, it sounds entirely unique and novel to be used under the solo. Of course, this is all helped by being played under one of George Lynch's best solos, in my opinion, but it really is a very cool way to have an under solo riff be used. So those are just a few of my favorite under solo riffs of all time. There are countless others, and if you guys are interested, I will definitely be making a part 2. So leave your picks down below. I've been Varvis. Cheers.